Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Rebel News Daily live stream. We're on YouTube for now. They just changed the rules. Drea, Humphrey, to anyone who's not commercially viable, they can kick off. We're also on Super U and Rumble. I believe producer Justin, I'm happy to be on all these alternate platforms. I really like Rumble and Super U. Everyone say hello to Drea Humphrey. How are you from, I don't know, what is it, 3 in the morning there, Drea?
No, I'm actually awake, unlike in our morning meetings. It's 9 a.m. now. So, hey, everybody.
And get in your chats on Super U, and we'll pick out some of those, I believe, and we'll read those. The first order of the day is even earlier in the morning there. I don't even know what time it is in Australia, but Avi Yamini had a video go up last night in the wee hours because it's Australia time, and it's basically the Australia police, I think in Melbourne, it says. They're basically engaging in a soccer fight. Drea, did you watch this video?
Yeah, like what's going on there? You know, I'm never too surprised anymore, I guess, with the Australian police. So.
Yeah, they've gone back into lockdowns in places like Victoria over single-digit cases. They're very COVID zero mentality over there. And we want to show this video. So essentially, the mainstream media showed an angle and clipped the footage of a group of guys who were told to move on, which is a legal term in Australia where basically they're telling you that you can't be in the area or you'll be committing a crime. So they told them to move on. They were walking away, and it seems like the mainstream media picked up right when they were just fighting with police, but they didn't show the part where they were told to move on. They were actually walking away, and the police came and cut them off on the street and essentially started a fight with them. Like I said, it's like two opposing fans outside of a soccer stadium. So let's go ahead and get to that clip, Justin, and then we'll get Drea's reaction to this.
By being here today, you're in breach of the chose directions, all right? So you are risking being arrested by the police. We are happy to arrest you if we have to, but we would prefer to give you the opportunity to leave now.
We had an interaction with the police. They told us to move on. We moved on, and as we were moving on, going back to our cars, rapid response ran up on the other side of the road. They blocked us, and then one of our guys, Jay, tried to get past. He didn't use force at all, and they did that thing, you know, where they grab their head and they pull you down. They did that, and then we went to grab him and separate him from the police, and the police started throwing punches, and then ended up in a big brawl with the police. So that's basically what happened.
You can agree or disagree with Nick's views on lockdown, just like you can with mine. You don't have to like him, you can even hate him. But you cannot deny that from all the footage that's freely available online, that the media chose to cut out, Nick and the group were given a move-on direction that they were complying with. In fact, they were almost at their cars.
Going home now.
Flatwind Street, intersection.
Tell you guys to go, we just want to go home.
And police still chose to ambush them violently.
Ravi, come here. Stay back.
Right there. Well, I mean, I've got a dislocated shoulder. You know, I've copped a few from them. They didn't have the grounds for it, and the reason we didn't have the grounds for it is you can't just go and we've been given a direction to move on, and as we're doing that, then they get blocked, and then we get assaulted for moving on. So, you know, same story. You know, the human rights violations, they don't care. They're just going to keep doing this unless we stand up to them. That's what we need to do.
You're in a sling, your head's, you know, you've looked...
Yeah, I probably need surgery on that, but that's how we get treated. Get persecuted for doing the right thing. Okay, the tyrants, you know, they don't have the capacity to think. The people at the top that are doing this, they're using the ignorance of the police. The police are completely ignorant.
Obviously, you're quite clearly injured. You're still back. It's not going to deter you.
No, I didn't sleep last night because I was in too much pain. They didn't give me any painkillers when I got out of the hospital. But no, you know, I've still got energy to go, and I'm not going to stop. And you know, I think it's more. I'm running on spiritual energy right now. And I don't mean that in a hairy-fairy way, but you know, you know, the spirit's strong. When the flesh becomes weak, it's not weak yet. It's not weak enough. So I'm going to keep pushing forward and doing what I know is right, because I think that the fact that the police are are making big mistakes in the way that they're detaining people and arresting people shows that they're losing the battle. And I think they're all going to get thrown under the bus by the people above them when it all ends up in a court.
I hope Nick's right for his own sake, because since catching up with him for that interview, police raided his home and have taken him back into custody, where he now sits awaiting his fate. We'll keep you posted here at Rebel News Australia.
So Drea, I don't condone or encourage people to get in fights with police, but the cops there shouldn't be just instigating something like this. Am I wrong about that?
Well, I agree. Yeah, the best thing, don't put your hands on cops or anything like that. But it's my understanding that, it has to be a lawful arrest. They were told to move on. I mean, this is disgusting. But the fact that he got arrested after that too, we just have to wait and see what's going to happen with that.
Do you think that the Canadian government looks at stuff that's going on in Australia in terms of their lockdowns and sees that as a template for what they're doing here? I mean, I look at other countries. Obviously, we're not doing what the U.S. does. We're not doing what England does. You can argue that it's because of vaccination levels there that they're not doing that. But it seems like we're gearing towards a COVID-0 plan. I mean, just today in Ontario, we've had the lowest case numbers since last October. And that's with all these other vaccines and different restrictions. Nobody's following the stay-at-home order here. Do you think that that's where Canada is looking to get their cues from on what to do?
Man, I don't know what Canada's problem is. We've been very similar government-wise with Australia, but if you recall, I'm in British Columbia. We're we're our own special place in Canada. And to be honest, I haven't really seen anything like that in BC. I know you guys have had it out there in Ontario. Montreal was crazy. But, in my area, especially like the Vancouver police, they have done an excellent job at, respecting our rights and keeping the peace and things like that. So I really can't complain. So I guess, maybe the RCMP there as a whole they're getting advice from somewhere. Is it Australia? I'm not sure. But even our RCMP out here in BC, I would say, are not quite as tyrannical.
I wish I could say the same about our police in general here. The police where I live, I won't even mention them, but they have been good. I haven't seen any ridiculous things coming from their jurisdiction. But that's just a series of smaller areas. It's not Toronto where things have been stupid. Montreal last night, our social media guy, Yankee Pollock, posted a video of a Montreal police officer just walking by, taking somebody's air horn that they're just blowing loud noises through, takes it, walks in the alley and breaks it. So they're just bullying people. They're just bullying people at this point for the sake of bullying them. Montreal police is out of control. Toronto police comes and goes with their tyranny. A lot of jurisdictions have been bad. And I don't sympathize with the idea anymore that, they're just doing their jobs. I mean, if they just want to keep following orders, and I'm talking about these particular jurisdictions, not all police, of course, how long are we going to keep doing this for? Are we okay with the lockdowns for 3 years, 5 years? Are we okay with this being permanent? And I see a lot of that talk out in Alberta where, thank God they didn't arrest a pastor today, you guys. Thank God that they're following the same lockdown rules as Ontario or the same reopening plan. If you get the vaccine, you can have your rights back. So my sympathy is gone with those who are just following the rules. And the same with the Ontario provincial government, where some people are saying, even people in the government are saying, we have no choice. Doug Ford's making us do all this stuff. I don't agree with that. I mean, you have the ability to stand up for yourself and say something. So at that point, I just have to imagine that it's just either you don't actually disagree with the government, or you don't want to put yourself out there and you want to try to get people to, on both sides to vote for you in the future. Am I off base by saying any of that, Drea, do you think?
No, I mean, I think it's fair on both sides. When you get to the pearly gates of heaven, you're not going to be able to say I was just following orders. So, you have to be able to put your head on your pillow at night and be okay with yourself. And I don't know how so many of these officers are doing that. I hope we can see a change. But, there's the whole brotherhood thing in there. And in order to speak out, you do have to speak out against the system and your brotherhood and things like that. But it's really no excuse. And I don't think it's limited to our police officers.
No.
I think we're seeing that on a lot of levels where people are seeing things that just aren't right in society today. And they're cowards, in my opinion. I know that sounds super mean, but
it is what it is, you might even say.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. A lot of these people have super powerful unions. If they band it together, they're not going to be fired by this isn't Seattle. They're not going to fire the police force, or Minneapolis, maybe I should say. Another thing that happened in Canada, sadly, is the uncovering of a grave from a long time ago. Pierre Elliott Trudeau, I believe, was the prime minister then. This has somehow turned into the first prime minister's fault. And yes, he was in charge at the time. But Charlottetown City Council votes to permanently remove Sir John A. Macdonald statue. Listen, there's a lot of stuff that was going on in the world that's bad from 200 years ago, not even. The history of Canada, not even 200 years old. And we're just condemning all this stuff blanketly instead of saying, hey, Pierre Elliott Trudeau was the actual prime minister at the time this happened. And this was allowed to have happened. Now, I think there's a lot of blame to be placed in a lot of different places, whether it's the church, whether it's the native tribe particularly that allowed this to happen. And it could be dispersed every which way. But again, we're back to tearing down statues, Drea. Is that where we are?
Well, I think that's also always the goal, it seems, with things like this. I mean, it was horrific what was found. I hate to say, but I don't know, how much are we looking into this as well? It's horrible. How do we know, how many years the bodies were put there? But to default just straight to statue droppings, and then, I don't know, it just seems typical to anytime something pops up like this, it's like, okay, John A. Macdonald's going down. I think people want action, and so they feel like, I don't know what type of solace they feel if a statue goes down, because it's really not the point. And like you're saying, blaming it, the blame is distributed for sure. It's not just one place at all. But I'd like to maybe do a report in that area. I'm about 4 hours away from there. Maybe I can get out there and ask some of the people what they think. But yeah.
4 hours away from where?
Are you talking about the Kamloops?
I'm talking about the Charlottetown.
Oh, sorry.
So now we got multiple
way
ones.
off. I'm way off. Sorry.
All across the
That's why I
country,
was like,
we're hating our
John
first
A.
prime
Macdonald.
minister.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I thought they linked it to John A. Macdonald with that. Okay, I'm way off now.
Oh no, you
Sorry
can
about
still.
that.
They did. They did. They linked it to him because he was the prime minister at the time when residential schools were first put in place. I don't know what's going on with the East Coast, Drea. There are COVID zero people over there. I have a sister. She's got property on the East Coast, not allowed to go there for any reason. They locked down for single digits. The head doctor, I think, for Nova Scotia said that, listen, you need to get the vaccine or else you can't have freedom. Even though fully vaccinated people might die, he literally said, you might still catch it, you might die. So great news over there. Take this added risk. I don't know what's going on with them. It's usually an older population. They voted for Justin Trudeau. I don't know how pro-lockdown they are. They seem to not be fighting back against it at all. I don't know what's going on with the East Coast. Not a huge population, but I think they get written off for reasons such as this, because when you have a smaller population, it's pretty easy to control them like that. I would reference New Zealand, who has a literal socialist as their prime minister, a woman who used to be part of a socialist group before she ran for office. They completely locked down. They've got a huge white privilege problem, as you can imagine. And I see these smaller populations being easier to manipulate, especially when it comes to the Canadian East Coast, our smaller provinces. There doesn't seem to be any resistance at all to anything. They're just happy to sit there. And I don't know how you feel about that. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. I have a ton of family on the East Coast too, Nova Scotia specifically. And I think the narrative that they believe is because it's been so strict there, that's why they don't have many cases. But I mean, yeah, I feel like they're really missing the point. I remember when their mask mandate came out, it was ridiculous as well. If I'm not mistaken, there was one case in the entire province, and then they still mandated masks for everybody. So they're kind of like, yay, we love lockdowns because they think it works, but really they don't have a huge number of cases to really base it on, really, to get that. And we saw, like, across the country, like when mask mandates went out, it did not correlate with cases going down. So I don't know. And I also know, like, a lot of people who are like, it's really strange because they're like, yeah, we're locked down, this is great, but then they break the rules. And it's like they don't even realize they're breaking the rules anyways. It's like the strangest thing. Like, they go out and they meet their family and stuff, but they're like, "Yay, we support lockdown restrictions." It's like, no, you're just living your life, and then you're saying you support it, right? So
I see a huge contradiction in people that are supportive of lockdowns, but they would call Justin Trudeau a communist or a tyrant, and the government's just doing this for your safety, and we should trust them and everything. And can be no corruption in the medical field or in the government that just wants to love you, but that's just my opinion. Speaking of Alberta, I think I mentioned it in there somewhere, Adam Soos, or Soos, he's got 2 O's, I don't know which, I'm pretty sure it's Soos. Sounds very Dutch to me. He has an update from Fairview Baptist Church. Of course, all the pastors being arrested in Alberta constantly. It's no longer a freedom in Alberta to congregate for your religion. People can disagree with them. I'm not of that denomination of any of the pastors have been arrested, and I still believe in the religious freedoms. I don't want, and people do ask me, well, how come you guys don't talk about mosques being open or synagogues being open? It's because I want them to be able to be open. The same way I want a restaurant to be able to be open. I'm not going to pick on one and say they should be open and ignore the other ones and say, well, they should also be locked down. To be fair, no, I want them all to be open. And I think we have an update from Adam that we can talk about, because this is an ongoing saga that gets international news coverage. Tucker Carlson, Glenn Beck, Alex Jones, and let's go ahead, Justin, we have that clip ready.
And sir, was the injunction against the church or against Pastor Tim? Do you know?
I haven't seen it, so no, I don't.
Okay. Adam Sills for Rebel News here outside of the church of Pastor Tim Stevens. Charges were dropped against Pastor Tim Stevens by Alberta Health Services last week, but he was once again served with an injunction last night threatening his worship. Once again, in defiance of these orders and in obedience to God, Pastor Tim Stevens has decided to gather for worship. We noticed a number of police vehicles, whether it be helicopters or potentially even police airplanes overhead, and some cars driving by, but we thought that worship would be allowed to proceed. Unfortunately, a representative from Alberta Health Services and 2 police officers did attempt to enter the church. 2 members from the church did not allow them access for the time being. They asked that they come back after worship had concluded. So police are now parked across the street and waiting. We can't keep an eye right now on the Alberta Health Services representative. We're not sure where he's gone to, but I'm sure he's not too far. Worship is wrapping up and people are starting to clear out. We're going to remain on the scene as the story develops.
Right now we're in the middle of the service. Okay. So if you were to wait about half an hour, 45 minutes, then you can go in. Right now you'd be breaking Act 176. Act 176. It's right here if you'd like to read it.
I can read it out for you guys if you like.
So under the Public Health Act, we are able to enter any public facility.
So I do understand that, but it says right here, disturbing religious worship or certain meetings. Everyone who willfully disturbs or interrupts an assemblage of persons met for religious worship or for moral, social, or benevolent purpose is guilty of an offense punishable in summary conviction.
Right, currently, so you don't want us to go and you're refusing us access into the facility, but you are allowing us into the facility after the mass is complete. Is that correct?
Is it okay if I ask why you'd like to go in the facility?
Currently, right now, for the church, there is a closure order.
Okay.
And so you're not allowed to have any mass.
Okay.
That's specific to your church here. Okay. And so because of that, you shouldn't be having any service right now.
Okay, so basically, we're not going to allow you to come in today because you've already been in here. You have videos and footage of everything that's inside here. So nothing's changed. Everything's the exact same. So we've talked to Tim, and that's what he said. He said, "You guys know nothing's changed in there at all. Like, we're still meeting downstairs, upstairs, everywhere, and so there's no point for you to come."
But we will, if you want to come in and take pictures after
everyone's gone.
Where it says everyone who or near a meeting referred to in subsection 2 willfully does anything that disturbs the order or solemnity of the meeting is guilty of an offence punishable in summary conviction. And so, we get it's interesting right now, right? Like, we get that you guys have a job to do, and there's kind of maybe conflicting rules going on, and we understand there's a bit of a tension there. And so we're kind of suggesting maybe the best way would be at the end of the service, because I guess you guys might understand, during the service, while the service is ongoing, that is a solemn occasion. That is solemn for the people inside. And that's why it's like, I think we would like to show you guys around maybe after, but...
Is Pastor Tim currently in the church right now?
Yes.
To talk with them?
No, you can't. You have to talk
We can tell him. We can bring him out after.
Oh, is he currently doing the service
right now? Yeah, so he's currently officiating a service right now. So I'm sure he'll be more than willing to chat with you.
Okay.
But that's all. That's all we're saying here, right? It's after the service. I think it's better for everyone, right?
Okay.
It's just maybe during the service. It is a very solemn occasion, and it's what we do really believe Jesus is real, and we're here to worship Jesus. It's a great occasion, actually. It's we're coming together as a family of believers, and it is like a family in there. I can tell you, it's like a family. So,
okay.
I think while we're worshiping God, that is a very solemn occasion, and that's a duty of everyone who is in there to worship God. That's why they've come. But when they're done,
give me a few minutes. I just need to make a few calls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. In terms of the charge.
So mass is not allowed. Your church has been closed. I don't know what country they think they're in, but I'm confused as to why the police think that, because they've done this before, they will wait until it's over. So why are we respecting one part of the Charter of Freedoms and rights and freedoms, but not the rest of it? Is it because they can be sued civilly otherwise? I'm not sure, Drea. How do you feel about this? Like, obviously I want them to not do this at all, and it's nice of them. We should be so grateful that they're not interrupting the church mass, but they're only following part of the rules and not the rest of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Help me out here.
I don't know, like, it could be a combination of things. Like, first of all, I'm surprised at this moment they're still acting like they don't know Section 176. I mean, maybe it's possible. I know towards when the beginning of this stuff was happening, it did seem like the officers or the officials coming didn't know about it. So I think there's that moment of like, oh, what is this? Like, you kind of almost get put into your place. Presuming that they did know about it, but they were just trying to get in anyways. It's like a vampire, like if you're welcomed in the house, you can come in, right? But then if you don't get invited in, it's a different story. So I think they try to get in, but like, why not just book an appointment? Like, how hard is that? Like, really just book an appointment. Why do they even try to do it? I guess they want to, undercover more worshiping, so they have more ammo against them, right?
Well, I think they want to go in and they want to take pictures of people so they can know who is breaking for their little system that they've got. They want to either charge them and fine them, or they just want to know who's breaking our laws here, because like you said, it's been more than a year. They know what's going on there. And to pretend that they don't know what they're going to say when they get there or what's happening there is a complete lie, in my opinion. And also to the fact that there's people who still say, well, like every other church is closing down, every other denomination is worshiping online or something. You don't get to tell people how to worship. Either you don't.
That's the main thing.
Either you don't get to tell people how to worship, or you do not believe in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms being infringed upon. And I think a lot of people probably realize over this past year and a half now that we don't have an actual document that governs our country and the way we live, like a constitution in the United States, that cannot be infringed upon. So long as the government decides that it's a worthy enough cause to infringe upon your rights, they can. That means taking away your rights to assembly, taking away your right to travel, taking away your right to congregate, and everything else that's on there that you thought maybe we can fall back on this at any given time and say you can't actually do this, you can't actually protest, stuff like that. But I can't tell Muslims how to pray. I can't tell Jews when their religious holidays are or when they can work, because that's supposed to be in our rights. And that's what you accept when you're in a country that has a couple hundred years of history and has formed based on this document and formed based on these rules that have given us such a great country. It's why you like America, because it has freedom of speech and all these other freedoms, Second Amendment. And then you understand that this document and the Founding Fathers built this great country based on this set of rights that are not to be infringed upon. But in Canada, we don't have that, and I shame with my mightiest of wagging fingers any police officer or bylaw officer who now feels empowered to be like, I'm the one who can take away your rights. The person in charge of me who makes 110 grand a year, they decide who gets rights now, whether that's a city council person or a mayor. I don't even, like I said, I'm not religious, but I do believe in inalienable rights where another man or woman can't just take them away from me whenever they see fit. If we're in a world war, okay, I'm going to accept that. If we're being invaded, I'm going to accept that. If there's an airborne virus that's making people drop dead in the streets, I'm going to accept that. But 99%, 99.5 and up percent, Drea, is not enough for me. And I just wanted to point out, you mentioned vampires not being welcomed into a home. I don't agree with that part of vampire theology, just like I don't believe in running zombies, zombies that survive for 2 years without nourishment. How, Drea, Humphrey, can they just survive without calorie intake? And how can vampires just like, what is this force that's stopping them from coming in? I don't agree with that, Drea. I don't know what vampires...
Well, it sounds like you didn't watch Vampire Diaries, so
no, I didn't.
Pretty much sums it up.
I watched Blade 1, 2, and 3. I've watched Interview with the Vampire. I've watched Dracula. Nice. I don't agree with not being able to welcome in there. And also I don't agree... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, we're still on vampires. It's okay, go ahead.
I was also going to agree with I don't believe vampires can manipulate your mind. Like there's some movies where like they make people fall in love with them and stuff like that. I don't agree with that either.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Interview with a Vampire is probably the standard, I would say, for
I think so. Big Tom Cruise gal, eh?
Yeah. I want to go back to BC because I want to give credit where credit is due. So we have other faiths than Christians that are open and they haven't been slandered in the news or anything like that. It's been the Christian churches that happen to have been fined out here. However, they're still open. And, they might get a fine like every couple of months, because they get complaints. And so I do feel like, again, the officers are using their discretion, our health bodies are using their discretion. And we actually had churches go to the Supreme Court in BC to fight for their right to be open, and they didn't get that right. And they're not even being penalized anymore. So Alberta is just a mess. Like, what is going on there? This is supposed to be such a conservative place. And it's no different to tell people how they can worship than it is to tell people who don't want to worship anybody, who want to be atheists, that they need to do it. It is absolutely no different. So
I feel like Alberta was under this guise that they're so conservative that they stopped paying attention to what their parties and their leaders were actually doing. And I see this with people I know as well who are just like, oh, the Conservative Party is so much better than the Liberals. But when the narrative and the Overton window of the party shifts so far in one direction over the course of, let's say, 10 years, and it becomes what the other party used to be, even though they've shifted further left, that's not the same as withholding your views. You're basically just advocating for a party no matter what they say. I mean, the Green Party could have been all about environmentalism 20 years ago. Now they're about socialism. So just because you're sticking with the party does not make you an environmentalist. It does not make you a hardcore conservative just because you like the Conservative Party. And I do want to mention, even in California, the loveliest of states, they have sued the government. The churches have sued the government and won actual monetary settlements for being forced to close. So I just wanted to mention that. Hockey is a thing in Canada. The Leafs just lost again last night. I wish I cared as much this year, but it was a weird season where they only played Canadian teams in the regular season. So I didn't care because all the other Canadian teams suck, but they still managed to lose to Montreal. But David Menzies went to Montreal the other day, where just like in Toronto last night, a certain amount of people were allowed in. Now in Toronto is 500 healthcare workers, even though we all found out through Twitter that it wasn't just healthcare workers, it was investors and of course, some IT guy, I think David Menzies said, got a ticket to go in, a consultant. in Montreal, it was supposed to be open to the public, I think 2,500 people, and a lot of them were not socially distanced at all. And even, Justin, if you can get to the part where the employees of the Bell Center are congregating, and David Menzies talks to one of the employees there, you're going to laugh and possibly even shed a single tear, Drea, Humphrey. I know you're a big crier. I've made that up right now. Where they say that we're wearing masks and goggles, therefore we don't need to socially distance. And it's really crazy because on one hand, you've got regular people who want to go to the game. They're willing to shell out a bunch of money for it, which was weird because one couple was like, our son doesn't get to play hockey and we agree that it's stupid, but they didn't bring their son to the game. So you've got those people.
I thought that too.
Yeah, they've got those people. Then you've got obviously rich people who are going to dish out $8,000, $10,000 for a game and be like, I don't care about the peasants, they can suffer. But then you've got the actual employees who are lucky enough to not only be in this exciting event, they're lucky enough to still be working. And then they're congregating in their little huddle, and they don't have to follow the rules. They don't have to socially distance. And even if they're vaccinated, why are they still wearing masks? They didn't say that they were, so I'd imagine that this was not a requirement for them to work there. But it just goes to say, and I hate to say a David Menzies tagline, but one rule for them and another rule for us. Yeah, I can't even bring myself to say it. Perverse irony is one of his that I'll say. But Justin, do we have that queued up to them? Okay, this is the employees of the Bell Center, the arena in Montreal, just basically making an excuse for them breaking their own rules.
Folks, we knew before coming here we were going to see all kinds of violations of social distancing, but I didn't know it was going to happen 2 hours before the game by members of the staff of the Bell Center. These are staffers for the Bell Center. They were just here having a pep talk. I have no idea what it was that they are preparing for. But again, where's the social distancing? It's kind of funny. This is what the Montreal Police were so concerned about when just 17 of us were on that boat. But when it comes to the Montreal Police here, well, yet again, one rule for thee, one rule for me. Does that seem fair?
Not too much. It sucks for the kids having to stay at home, not being able to play. Now they're just playing video games.
Exactly.
So it'd be nice for the kids to get out and get more athletic. But things are starting to open up where we are, which makes things a little easier.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. But ma'am, why do you think there is this double standard? Does it all come down to money? I mean, you look at the people that own these NHL teams. You look at the people buying the expensive seats. They're the affluent, the insiders, the elitists. Is that why there's a different set of rules for $1 million NHL players versus children?
Do you think? No.
No. What would be the reason then?
I think it comes down to vaccinations.
Okay.
Like we're vaccinated. And
fully vaccinated.
Children can't be. 12 and under, where we come from, they can't be vaccinated.
Well, I was standing here wondering why the only camera crew here in this entire region, the CTV camera, there's a lovely lady over there. She's the only one wearing a mask right now. And I think that speaks a lot to the situation and the climate that we're living in.
Are you talking about the hockey players playing, or are you talking about the fans coming to the game?
Well, in a way, both. It's the hockey player, and they've been playing all year long, whereas kids' leagues have been shut down still.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering why one standard for millionaires on ice and another standard for amateurs.
Well, I think one has to keep an open mind. I'm a big proponent of mental health. Okay. Very affected by mental health in a lot of ways. And it's a very excellent question you bring. I think one has to keep in mind that watching sports helps people that have mental health. This is a tough pandemic we're going through. It affects people's mental health. I think we're blessed to have something to defer us on to watch these millionaire guys going. Now, as a fan I'm a season ticket holder. They didn't take advantage of it. We paid a normal price for tickets to come here. They didn't take advantage of the Canadians. So for mental health, it is something for one to look forward to. For kids that are underprivileged, for anyone across this whole country, hockey is part of our religion. So I think for mental health, I think it's a great thing that we're doing.
But it's funny how this particular religion is respected on this night, that 2,500 congregants can go into the Bell Center, yet
churches get hassled. The Montreal police on Friday and Saturday nights have hassled members of Montreal's Jewish community. It seems that if it's not a professional billion-dollar sports franchise, the local authorities and law enforcement, they're not really all that into religion. They're really kind of agnostic or atheists even. Can you make sense of this?
Drea, I think that one particular gentleman who says he's a season ticket holder, obviously he's got a lot of money if he can spend on that. They're not cheap. I think he just didn't want to give an opinion, mental health and all this, and he doesn't want to blame the players. He goes on to say that they have a filtration system and they're tested all the time, and I see that to be a fallacy and an appeal to authority. Only the NHL can properly run these things, you peasants. Only they are capable of doing things properly. Your son's league can't sit every other... This stands aren't packed for a little NHL game. They can socially distance. They can say parents have to wear masks. They can do a lot of things. They just don't want to have to worry about it. And this is obviously a big business thing. And Justin, maybe you can find the guy who talks on behalf of the Bell Center employees. He's wearing goggles and a mask and talking about that. But Drea, what do you think about this argument where it's okay for the big business to do it and all these people to do it? They have the filtration system and the capability of doing it. Do you think that's an appeal to authority, or do you think that's a fair argument where, and I'm trying to play both sides here, that's a fair argument where we can only trust a company who's got insurances and something huge to lose to properly organize this sort of thing?
Well, to be honest, I look at it a little different than you did. While it's a weak argument, I give him kudos for actually having an argument. Unlike what we're going to see with these goggle things, where you're just making things up out of thin air. So he did have, a thought out argument. He's talking about how they do things in there and also mental health. But I mean, come on, none of this has been about mental health, or else our kids would not be locked down. I mean, that's very clear. We're seeing how much they're suffering for mental health, and parents being able to watch their kids play hockey is good for mental health, and kids being able to do things is good for mental health. So that's why I say it's a weak argument, although there was some logic to it. And then, just the other couple who's out there, or the people out there, if you're wearing masks outside, there's no science behind that at all. Like, that's been proven, and people are still masking outside and having this false sense of security. You have all the workers together. They think, I guess, because they have the masks and goggles, it's okay for 2 hours before the event. And, even the places where you're allowed to, he mentioned hockey as a religion, which was funny, but places where you're allowed to have a little people gather for religion, you're not allowed to have any gathering before or after the service. So that was just another example of just how it's one law for thee and one law for me.
And the contradiction for the Montreal police there, if those people aren't waiting outside of a hockey arena or the Bell Center, everybody there is being dispersed. You're from different households. You can't be together. You can't be congregating. They lifted the curfew, a couple days before this game, so it was illegal just a couple days ago. What changed? I'm not exactly sure. Did the case numbers drop by like 9,000%? Justin, were you able to find that guy, or do you need more time? Yes? Okay, he's still getting to it. I want to mention the book that we are selling, Rebel News is selling. I can put it here and we'll get it up soon. Unsporting, it's a book about trans activism and science and sports being ignored by Linda Blade and Barbara Kay. That's available on unsporting.com. You can see, I like it when it's in the corner, but maybe there's a logo over it. So let's go with right here.
It was #1 on Amazon.
Yeah, exactly.
The other day.
That's crazy. Not just in sports, not just in science or anything like that, but #1 on Amazon in general. So that's unsporting.com. And I'm going to be doing a few interviews about that in the coming weeks with prominent female voices, Drea. Because imagine if two guys put out this book, how much hate they would get. I mean, the women will still get hate, and they're brave for putting their name on something like this and compiling all the statistics that are in there and the references that are in there. But it would be even worse, I feel like, if it was Avi Yemeni and Yankee Pollock discuss transgender.
We should try it. Just see what happens. But
just leave it blank on the inside.
I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to reading it for sure. I was Red Rover. This is such a bad example, but I think about it because I'm not a professional athlete, but I think of Red Rover and when you had to play with the boys and the girls. And I swear, every time a boy was just charging at me, I would like unlock my arms so he could just go right through because it was gonna hurt. Like, you know, it's just science. It's not the same.
I look forward to Drea Humphrey's video on the game Arachnophobia in gym class. Did you ever play that one?
No.
Unbelievable.
No.
You stand on both sides of the wall, and one person's the spider in the middle, and if they touch you, then you're stuck in place. Basically, the goal is to run back and forth between the walls, and if somebody touches you, you're stuck in place, and then you can touch people. But only the spider can move. Yeah, exactly. Jeez, Drea.
Oh, that's a fun one. That sounds fun.
You have 30 kids. You can play that with them.
I think I will.
Okay, I think Justin has the clip we were talking to, and then we'll get to some good fine stuff out west. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, it's different. It's not the same thing.
We can test kids on the ice too. I mean, they've been off the ice for almost 2 years.
It's costly to do that. So.
Also, can you help with nobody's socially distancing here?
We all wear a mask and glasses. So when you wear a mask and glasses, social distancing it's important, but it's okay when it's like that.
It's okay if you have the mask and glasses, not the socially distant.
Glasses.
Okay.
It's better to still keep the distance, but that's why all employees have masks and glasses for that.
Okay. Thank you. Who's going to win tonight?
Canadians, of course.
I think you're right. Folks,
So mask and glasses. If we're going to go down the glasses route, Drea Humphrey, then where are your earplugs? Where are your gloves? Where's your entire chemical spill suit? Glasses and masks, I mean, we can get into the science of the masks. I know you know it. And the micron levels and the size of the virus and the size of the water droplets and what a plastic surgeon mask is actually meant for. It's to stop you from spitting and sweating into a person you're doing surgery on. But Drea, I don't think that guy's ever going to be allowed to have a public comment again, do you?
He probably will in our world. Like, we do so much for no reason. Even our 2 meters thing, like, that's not a thing. 3 meters is enough. Like, so he probably will be just fine. But, you know, and how about the protests we've had in Montreal specifically, like 150,000 people, no huge spike after, like, how come people they don't know didn't just drop dead after that? But, you know, again, the goggle thing, there is some truth to that. Like, this whole time, people have been walking around with just like a piece of fabric in front of their nose and mouth and not wearing goggles. Mm-hmm. So how scared are you about COVID-19 if you haven't been covering your eyes? So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
all your orifices.
Nonsense.
If you're getting tear gas or pepper sprayed, you don't just cover your mouth only. It's getting in other places and burning. And those are gigantic particles, but we're talking about microscopic ones. But let's not get myself worked up here. You have a fine update from your area, do you not?
Oh, which one?
I don't know. What you want to tell us about some fines that were dropped?
Oh, fines being dropped in. Oh, okay. You're talking about the Quarantine Act. Okay, give me a minute here. Yes. So, well, I don't want to celebrate, do a dance too soon, but it seems like in BC they are dropping the Quarantine Act fines like it's hot. So recently in the news, it was kind of announced and people were freaking out. It was like, oh, if you have any COVID fines now, ICBC, you might not be able to get your license renewed because ICBC is going to be managing those fines. That's how it was delivered to the people.
And what's ICBC, sorry?
ICBC is like our car insurance here.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So it was delivered oh, you better pay your fines. You better not get fined, those kinds of things. And but since we are helping people with our Fight the Fines program, where we provide free legal counsel, we're starting to notice that actually ICBC is yeah, sure, we'll take care of them. And they're invalid. So there's people are getting these notices that they're invalid, and it doesn't even completely explain exactly why, but don't ask no questions. It says we found your ticket to be invalid. You do not have to pay these fines. You do not have to dispute these fines. So yeah, they don't even want to deal with it. On one level, it would be nice to actually go to court and set a precedent. This is unconstitutional on a million different levels. But at least these families that have taken a stand and, said, I can quarantine at home, thank you very much, are not being penalized any further than being detained for hours at the airport or what have you.
Maybe some unnamed lawyers will get to that for you, Drea. I don't even want to mention them, the ones that have been working and turning over everything in the government. But I'm glad to hear that. I can tell the audience that there are similar things happening in other places in the country, but I don't know how much I'm allowed to say. Something else has been happening in BC is vaccination to children. It's happened in Toronto. They enticed them with ice cream. So if people are confused as to why 12 to 17-year-olds are allowed to get the vaccine without parental consent, well, think about it the same way as, let's say somebody got in a car accident. I know that's a graphic thing to suggest, but like anytime a child who is 12 to 17 receives emergency medical care, they don't need to stop and say, excuse me, can your father or your mother sign this piece of paper so we can give them medical care? They're considering this under the same umbrella. I don't know the exact name of the law, but they're considering this an essential medical service that the children don't need permission for. And just to be cool and just to be nice, they're giving them ice cream and telling them it's great time. And I've heard arguments to say, oh, well, they don't give suckers to kids after a doctor's office visit, do they? Sarcastically, of course, because they do. And it's like, that's not the same thing. And apparently, Drea, in British Columbia, they gave children the wrong vaccine. Is that true?
I know what you're talking about. They did it to 12 people. For some reason, I didn't notice it was BC. Oh my gosh, it is.
Vancouver teenager is one of 12 mistakenly given Moderna instead of Pfizer vaccine. That's good. We're just
not approved.
We're just injecting kids with something and we don't even know. What if it was Kool-Aid? What if it was something else? We just have syringes improperly labeled or mixed up and we just said, let's just go ahead and do it. Or which is worse, Drea? Knowing that it was wrong and doing it anyways, or completely not even realizing it until later?
Definitely doing it anyways. But oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was BC, but it's like, oops, sorry, we gave you the non-approved vaccine. We only meant to give you the approved for emergency use only. But back to BC and children not needing consent for vaccination. Here in British Columbia, that's not new. Like that's been happening for years. And so I think it might be new for Ontario, but we have something called the Infants Act out here. And so that was originally passed to allow kids, the argument was for kids who wanted birth control, but didn't want to go through their parents. So that's kind of how it got passed. And then since then, it's been used, for kids to go on cross-sex hormones against their parents' consent and vaccinations. So I have a family member, a teen who her parent was just like wanting to wait, like not an anti-vaxxer by any means, but this was 2019. They were supposed to get their vaccinations for the teens, and her mom was just like, I want some time to think about this. And so she came back vaccinated. And she was like, oh, they told me I don't have to wait for you at school and stuff like that. So, this is actually a thing that's been happening for a while now.
Yeah, and I had this argument with somebody based on them saying, oh, what's the big deal? We should let them do it. And then I say to that, let the kid decide if this is okay, if an injection for something that isn't mandatory, and overwhelmingly isn't going to kill the child, if that's okay, then let the child decide if they want to go to school or not. Let them decide if they want to vote. Let them decide if they want to drive. And if you have an argument against that, that's they can't be responsible for that, then maybe you should think about the fact that a child can't possibly have the time to, maybe they could, Drea, or maybe they're a genius like you. Maybe they have time to read all these studies. Maybe they have time to look into all the possible side effects or the statistics. But the reason we don't let children decide for themselves all these other things is because they don't have the capacity to make these decisions on their own. Now, you can make the argument, it's a legal argument, that you can charge a person who's 12 or over for murder or a serious crime, for example. They have the consciousness of decision making like that, and you can't just say they're too young to even know what they're doing in some cases. This is not the same thing. This is not, like I said, we're not letting kids drive. We're not letting them decide where they could go to school or not, but we're letting them decide if they should get a vaccine without the consent of their parents. Now, I don't think a child should be able to do any of that stuff. I don't think they should be allowed to smoke. without permission, or even with permission. I just don't think that there should be children making these decisions on their own without a parent, because then it opens up this whole argument for everything. And I think it's not unfair to say, especially in British Columbia, with what you're working with the injunction on the publication ban there. I don't think it's a far stretch to say, how come you can't let a child decide if they want to transition genders, and the person might stop in their tracks and say, well, that is something that I would be concerned about, except for the fact that it's already happening. You can't stop a child from doing that in Canada, or else you might get them taken away from you. Do I have my facts correct on that? You can't stop a child from transitioning if they want?
No, especially in British Columbia. I mean, I did a report on a mom who found out like a week before her child was scheduled to have both breasts removed. I mean, and that falls under the Infants Act. It's the same law that allows these kids to get vaccinated. I mean, the bottom line is we tend to only focus on science when it's convenient for us. And so a child's brain just isn't developed. The frontal cortex is just not developed. And that's where you have your reasoning and your decision making. So there's that. I mean, it's different if the parents are like, completely off their rocker and they've been proven to be negligent parents or something like that, then obviously there's reasons for the government to intervene. But that's not what's happening when you say, hey, we're going to give you ice cream. And, I saw a poster from Ontario that said they were going to get free ice cream and a live DJ. I have not seen a video. I never saw a video of the live DJ. Like, did they just totally lie about that? But I saw that and I thought, so you've been locking these kids down this whole time, and then you're going to basically throw a party if they come and get vaccinated. It's insane. And then there's the whole, are they getting informed consent? But yeah, definitely in British Columbia, there seems to be a push to have children's rights trump parental rights.
And there's a whole list of things they're doing in the United States to entice people to get this great thing. It's so great, but the government has to fully entice you, like an anti-smoking ad. In New York, Ohio, Los Angeles, California, they have lotteries. Los Angeles and California totaled $116 million in prizes for their lottery. New York's $35 million. Ohio awarded a couple people. Ohio and New York are also awarding scholarships, 4-year scholarships with paid room and board for vaccination. So on one hand, not only do you get people entering into this lottery and getting vaccinated, so the government wins on that front of getting people vaccinated. Anyways, you've also now enticed them to do this other thing. So it's a win-win situation for them. And if they can spend these millions of dollars to get people to do it, they've already played into the game if they're just entering this lottery, which is just another abuse of tax dollars. Hey, let's take California, you're not taxed enough. Let's take over $100 million and put it towards this thing we've already spent billions of dollars on, that being purchasing vaccines. And I was thinking before that they don't want these vaccines to go to waste, but they've already been purchased. So like, what's the difference between and giving them out? Like, we've already paid for them. The companies have already gotten their money. Is the actual answer, Drea, that I'm missing, that the government just loves you and wants you to be safe? Does Doug Ford really care about me that much?
Well, Doug Ford, no. The answer is no. And as a mom, I get it. Like, we bought this food, you better eat that food. Don't let it go to waste. But this is not food. And it's the same with like everything that's happening to us across the board is on the premise that it has to be reasonable for it to be done. So when we're talking about kids and the coercion, I would call it, that we're seeing for them to get this vaccination, that's a completely different ballgame than if we're talking about someone in their 60s or something like that. You have to weigh how dangerous this virus is to them. So when we're ignoring the fact that, in the States, in the UK, and in Israel, they are currently investigating heart issues in teenagers who have been vaccinated. That is investigating right now. And Canada is just ignoring that and saying, hey, come get your ice cream. So, it's just wrong on all levels, if you ask me.
I want to go back to Montreal. And Justin, can you get the video from Yankees Twitter of this Montreal cop? I just think it's so funny and petty. and then maybe after that we can take some chats from Super U. I don't know if we have the capability. No, we can't take some chats from Super U. Justin saying we can't send them to Drea.
Okay. Yeah, you want to email them to me?
Okay,
is that possible?
that's very time consuming. Let's bring up this Yankee video, and then maybe we can talk about the Rebel News store. I know we've got new stuff going up there. I can confirm to you guys that we are getting shirts for some of your most favorite Rebel personalities. I don't want to completely give it away, but there's tons of requests that come in. How many do I want to say per week? Probably at least a couple people every week over the last year, 2 years, just wanting shirts of Rebel personalities, and we're getting them to you. We're getting the store is getting better every day. Avi Yemeni does a really good job of getting the suppliers there to give him what he wants. He gets those zip-up hoodies that we want.
Yeah.
For some reason, people ask about that. They're only available in Australia because of the manufacturers. We're trying to get better manufacturers every single day because we want to have more stuff available like that. So Justin, if we can go to that Montreal clip, which is hilarious, and then let's bring up the store after and talk about that. What are these sounds I'm hearing?
What the fuck was that? Oh, fuck you, dude!
Oh, he's breaking?
No, that was his! Why are you breaking it, dude? So why do you turn your light on? So we can't see your face? I'm just like semi-curious.
So Drunk Hockey Fan 6A asks why they turn their light on, and he is correct. So they can't see them. They've been doing this all year long. They're bullies, the Montreal police. I'm sorry to say, like I mentioned before, the police in my area have been great my entire life. They've been very great. And the Montreal Police Force, they see a guy blowing a horn, which I believe, Drea Humphrey, is called a vuvuzela, popularized in the 2010 South African World Cup. Look that one up, Wikipedia staff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sounds like bees in the audience. So I believe that's what it was. Guy takes it, cop takes it, breaks it, puts it in his pocket. For why? Was that guy committing a crime? No, they just didn't like it. And when you try to see what's going on, they shine their light in young, beautiful Yakov Pollock's face. Thoughts on that, Drea Humphrey?
Well, that noise was pretty annoying. So no, is that not like theft and like destruction of property? I'm like really confused. That seemed extremely illegal. And am I right to say they don't wear body cams there as well?
I believe that they do not.
They do not. So then you have their face is masked, they use this light tactic, and they're not wearing body cams. I mean, it's quite frightening. Like, this is Canada, and these are how these thugs are operating. But, yeah, what a bully that is. It's just...
Producer Efron's going to be proud of you. Let's go ahead and bring up the store, Justin. I know we're going to want to mention... Say hello to everybody on Super U. I want to say hello to everybody on Rumble. We're on Telegram, we're on Parler, we're on Instagram and Twitter, of course. And Odyssey, we can't forget the good folks at Odyssey giving their own cryptocurrency library, I believe it's called. I don't know, it's fun. Everything's fun except for YouTube, Drea. I don't know about you. Every platform has their own thing. Rumble's like, hey, we have live streaming for everybody, and we may not promote politics, but we won't take it down. Super U's got we've got this live chat. We want to bring in memberships. We want to bring in as many people as we can. It says free speech on the thing. Parler's like, we're alternative to Twitter. Everybody's got their own thing, but YouTube's like, no. You say anything about the election, about coronavirus, you're gone. And now the new rule, Drea Humphrey, is not commercially viable is the thing. So if they think that they can't make money off of you, they're happy to run ads on our demonetized channel, by the way. If they can't make money off of you that they want, then you're gone. Drea Humphrey, is there any hope as we look at our beautiful Rebel merchandise there, rebelnewsstore.com?
Well, you know, Facebook has decided to no longer penalize people who talk about the possibility of the virus coming from a lab. So
well, that's something. It only took a year.
That is something.
It only took a year for everybody else to realize what was going on. And may I remind everyone that last year we had a report from Sheila Gunn-Reid about Justin Trudeau funding the same Wuhan lab that Dr. Fauci is now being criticized for allegedly times 1,000 giving money to, of course. And then the other leak from the Wuhan Games, which Kean Bexte released as well, a secret document that had a very cool voiceover actor in it. That was all swept under the rug by the mainstream media. But now, a year and a half later, Drea Humphrey, oh, it's okay to talk about this on CNN. Joe Biden's the greatest president of all time for putting he stops the Trump investigation into it and then starts his own into it because of backlash. Now we've got the right people on it. Those evil Trump guys, Drea. I'm losing my voice out of passion. Those evil Trump guys didn't know what they were doing. Now it's okay. Coincidence or not?
Not. And yeah, even Ezra wrote in his book about, you know, the funds that went to the Wuhan lab. And I believe Obama funded it as well. But yeah, you know, I lost my first Facebook page for talking about, you know, some of the reasons people believed it came from the lab and stuff like that. So I don't know whether or not Rebel can hang on YouTube until everything that we've been saying is mainstream. I don't know. But you know what? If they don't want us, that's okay. You know what I mean? There's lots of other places to go, like you said, right?
I love Rumble and I love Super U. I believe you're talking about the hunger for truth with Drea Humphrey. Before I die from some sort of asphyxiation. Everybody go buy the book. I'm going to be talking about it more this week. No, I didn't write it, so don't be confused as to why I'm pushing it so much. But it's because it's important is why I'm pushing it so much. In Florida and in another state, I'm forgetting where, I think Georgia right now, they have, I'll just stick with Florida because I can't remember the other one, but they've passed a bill banning transgender boys from competing in women's sports. Other people are looking at the legislation because, as you may or may not know, in the upcoming Olympics, there is a transgender person competing in women's powerlifting. You know, the one where they get up on the stage. They have a lot of chalk on their hands. They spit a lot. Some people bleed out of their nose. And they powerlift. Used to be a powerlifter for men. Wasn't good enough. Powerlifter for women, Olympics now. They changed the rules, and I believe the rule is a month before the competition, they can't have testosterone elevated above women. That's like saying a month before your UFC fight, you can weigh in and you have another month. You have another month to gain weight and compete. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And like the book says, it's ignoring science. #1 on Amazon, Drea Humphrey, last words to you.
Well, hang in there, guys. I know it's been a long ride. You know, try to keep your spirits up, and I think that's half of the battle.
Thank you very much, Drea Humphrey. I try to bring a lot more energy these days to keep up with the stupidity of the world. Thank you for everyone on Super U and Rumble. If you're on YouTube, go to our website, give us your email address so we can get the videos that we can't. Half of my videos, you guys, can't go on YouTube. I hope you realize that.
Mine too. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Especially when we talk about the jab, right?
Yes, we're getting banned for sure for this conversation, Drea. So rebelnews.com, everybody go to Rumble and Super U. Go to unsporting.com for the book. And send donations for Fight the Fines. We're winning fines left, right, and center. Beating them, I mean. We're helping over 1,000 people, which is insane to think about, and I think people appreciate that. You can get a tax-deductible donation at that website, or even Save Arthur. I know I'm throwing out a lot of plugs, but is the nature of the beast, Drea Humphrey. Thanks a lot, producer Justin. You're looking handsome as usual. Play us out, please.